independent for less than a year, and we have 107 members as of this evening. Men and women who are 18 years of age or older and who are American citizens may become members of the League. We are nonpartisan. We never ever endorse candidates or parties. We do study and advocate for issues at the local, state, and national levels. In Leelanau County, we study farm labor, energy and natural resources, early childhood development, and the challenges and opportunities facing Leelanau. We have also had programs this year on 2 state issues: education and the courts. Most recently, we are very proud of our successful efforts to help register high school students at the 4 public high schools in the county. We registered 60 students, which is more than they have ever done at this time. Now, I happened to speak to the president of the Lansing League yesterday, and she said they registered almost 100 students, so we did pretty well considering our numbers. Our board of directors is full of energy and ideas, and it is because of these women that our first year has been a resounding success. Not only are most of them in charge of a portfolio, most are active members of other league committees as well. I'd like the board members to stand as I mention their names, and please hold your applause until they're all mentioned. Suzanne Hoff, Vice President and Chair of the Farm Labor Task Force. She's back there. Sharon Gomes, Secretary. Joe Walker, Treasurer and Webmaster. Martha Shaver, Membership Chair. Marion Kronkowski, Publicity Chair. Nancy Duck, Observer Chair. Ann McGinnis, Co-Chair of the Energy and Natural Resources Committee. BJ Christensen, Voter Service Co-Chair. Judy Hoffler, Co-Chair of the Challenges of Leelanau Committee. Barbara Reiner, Nominating Committee. And Betsy Bush, she could not be here today because she had to be in Florida all year. Anyway, please give them a round of applause. This is the first time for our league to present Outstanding Member Awards. Many people in our league would qualify for this award, but the 2 people we chose stood out above the rest for service to the league and to our community. Barbara Marsh and Barbara Reiner, could you please come up?
You're here.
Barbara Marsh will read the citation for Barbara Reiner.
Barbara Reiner has intertwined her life with a love of Leelanau, a commitment to civic awareness, and a passion for the environment. As a small child, Barbara began enjoying the woods of Northport each summer with her family. As a teen, she served as a lifeguard at Northport Point Beach, and as a young, newly married woman, she brought her husband Ed to Leelanau to learn to appreciate it as she did. They bought land in McCormick, and soon the Columbus, Ohio native and an Ohio State graduate and her husband returned with their 3 children each summer to spread their arms around the beauty of their favorite land. Together they scoured the woods for mushrooms, planted gardens, and relished the joys of nature surrounding their paths. Barbara's commitment to civic awareness and service can be seen today with her more than 60 years involvement with the League of Women Voters, including serving as president of the League of St. Cloud, Minnesota, participating in the Leelanau County Women's Issues Discussion Group, and then working as a board member of the newly formed League of Women Voters Leelanau County. She has served on many study groups over the years and is always the first to get her homework completed and reports ready for the meetings. When Barbara says she will do something, consider it done. Prior to her move to Leelanau County as a permanent resident in the late 1990s, she was a Kansas lobbyist, where she worked to educate the Kansas legislature on issues pertaining to law enforcement and Planned Parenthood. Then when life took her to Topeka, Kansas, she served on the board of the Malvern Art Museum at Washburn University. In addition to her dedicated lead service, Barbara supports fundraisers for the Leelanau Christian Neighbors and the Leelanau Conservancy. She is involved with Trinity Church Northport, the Friends of the Northport Library, the Women's Club of Northport, and the Northport Library Book Discussion Group. It is an honor for the League of Women Voters in Leelanau County to select Barbara Reiner as an outstanding member. We salute you, Barbara, and hold you as an example of the difference one person can make in the world around her.
So eager and so enthusiastic and so ambitious that I thought perhaps I could keep them from jumping off the cliff. Well, look what happened. We jumped off the cliff and soared. We absolutely soared. So thank you for all joining the league this year, and thank you. And please stay involved.
And now would Nan Kennedy and Mary Honager please come forward.
You're here.
Fortunately for the people.
No, you have to
speak
it.
Better? Okay.
Yeah.
Much better.
All right, thank you. Fortunately for the people of Leelanau, Mary and Ron Tonnenberger decided to come to Alena to visit college friends in the 1960s. Since that time, they and their children, and now their grandchildren, have enjoyed the beauty of Leelanau. Like so many Leelanau residents, the Tonnenbergers came first as summer vacationers with small children, then as cottage owners, and when the time was right, as full residents. Following her retirement as Senior Vice President of Worthing Worldwide, formerly Kennedy Research, and from her 20-year commitment to that company, Mary dedicated herself to giving back to the county she and Ron adopted so many years ago. Mary's commitment to clear communication, public service, and political civility are hallmarks of her service as chair of the Leelanau Board of County Commissioners, for many roles with the Leelanau and Regional Commissions on Aging and with the Benzie Leelanau Board of Health. She has served on the boards of Share Care, the Alena Historical Society, and is a member of the county's Planning Commission. Among her other activities, Mary is a member of the Alena Women's Club, has served as a Commodore of the Alena Yacht Club, and is a membership chair of the Sutton State Rotary Club. Mary joined the League of Women Voters Leelanau unit when it was first organized in 2008 and served on the board of the newly formed League of Women Voters Leelanau County. Currently, Mary is a member of the League's Energy and Natural Resources and Early Education Committees. Mary holds an undergraduate degree from Denison University and a master's degree from the University of Missouri, Columbia. It is an honor for the League of Women Voters Leelanau County to select Mary as an outstanding member. We salute you, Mary, and hold you as an example of the good that one person can do to make a difference in the world around her.
Thank you all. I'm not very good at extemporaneous speaking, but I certainly want to thank all of you, and certainly Davina, who's been a tremendous leader of our league and a tremendous board to work with. So I know we have nowhere to go but soaring ahead here and making an impact in our county. Thank you all.
I'd like now to introduce Marion Kronkowski, who will be introducing our speaker. Marion has been a member of the League Board for the past 3 years. She will be elected later this evening to the Vice Presidency. You can't back out now, Marion. Marion is our Publicity Chair and has greatly increased our visibility this past year. A lawyer with more than 30 years' experience, Marion has worked as a part-time domestic relations referee in 5 northern Michigan counties and has also been a domestic relations mediator for the past 15 years. Since 2008, Marion has been on the board of the Collaborative Practice Institute of Michigan. Please join me in welcoming Marion, who will introduce Justice McCormick.
Thank you. Telling you about Justice McCormick could take a long, long time. As I prepared to introduce her, I reread the bio materials sent to me by her staffer, Lori, and now spoke with her over the dinner hour. And I continue to be amazed as to how much she has accomplished. She went to high school in New Jersey and graduated from Trinity College in Connecticut in 1988. She was a graduate of the New York University Law School, where she was a Ruth Tilden Scholar. More about that later. She spent the first 5 years of her legal career in New York City representing indigent clients, and only 8 years out of law school, she became a faculty fellow at Yale Law School. Somehow she came to her senses and came to Michigan in 1998. She joined the University of Michigan Law School faculty at that time. In addition to teaching criminal law and legal ethics, she and others worked to create 8 groundbreaking clinics at the law school. These efforts led to the University of Michigan Law School being recognized nationally as one of the best places to be trained as a lawyer. So whether you are a blue or a green, this is a good thing. The clinics that she did help found, the list is amazing to me. A domestic violence clinic, pediatric health clinic, mediation clinic, low-income taxpayer clinic, international transactions clinic, human trafficking clinic, juvenile justice clinic, and an entrepreneurship clinic. And clinic for students in law school means that not only are you learning the basics of law, but you're having real experience supervised by a practicing lawyer or a faculty member to get into the courts and actually know what the heck you're supposed to do once you pass the bar. In 2008, then Associate Dean McCormick co-founded with Professor Dave Moran the Michigan Innocence Clinic, in which students represent wrongfully convicted Michiganders. In 2012, she became dean at the University of Law School. Awards for legal ability and professionalism. How much time do I have here? I'll kind of summarize these quickly. The Justice for All Award from the Criminal Defense Attorneys of Michigan. The Washtenaw County Bar Association's Patriot Award and Mary Foster Award. Coleman Law School's Distinguished Brief Award, which was for the best brief submitted to the Michigan Supreme Court. The Justice Caucus's Millie Jeffrey Award, and the Honorable Kay Terzag's Purple Sport Coat Award. we were talking about Judge Turtzog at the table, and he was a judge in Wayne County, and my husband and I practiced in Wayne County, but he was either not there when I was there, or just our paths didn't cross. But his motto was, be prompt, be prepared, and be polite. I kind of think those are League of Women Voters principles. And I did learn at the table that yes, Justice McCormick did get a purple sport coat out of that award. Bridget Mary McCormick joined the Michigan Supreme Court in January of 2013 and became Justice McCormick, joining Chief Justice Young and Justices Kavanaugh, Markham, Kelly, Zahra, and Viviana. In her spare time, she chairs the Supreme Court's Limited English Proficiency Implementation Advisory Committee, was elected to the American Law Institute to help clarify, modernize, and improve the law, and was appointed to the National Commission on Forensic Science. In addition, she is active on many committees in the American Bar Association, the National Consortium on Racial and Ethnic Fairness in the Courts, the National Association of Women Judges, and the National Board of Legal Specialty Certification. In the rest of her spare time, Justice McCormick is married to Stephen Crowley, who is also a lawyer and a law professor. They have 4 children in Ann Arbor Public Schools. I said I would go back to Justice McCormick being a Root Tilden Scholar at NYU Law School. I had not heard of this scholarship or this program, but when I looked into it, I'd like to share this with you. It was founded in 1951, and the Root Tilden program's purpose is to raise the American legal profession to the high position it once held as the reservoir of altruistic and competent public leadership. Having high hopes for Justice McCormick is more than justified. She honors us by her presence here tonight.
But do you hear me, Dean?
No.
Okay. Do what?
Close enough, but not too close.
How about here?
Yeah.
You can hear me now? So, I mean, will somebody stand up and like wave if you can, if I move it the wrong way. Just let me know if you can't hear me. Thank you very much for that kind introduction. I find it somewhat embarrassing to listen to all of that. I like to, when I introduce myself, I usually say Bridget McCormick, public employee. And thank you very much for inviting me here tonight. I am so happy to see some old friends and meet some new friends and get to talk to as many of you as I can about my favorite branch of government. I was last in Leelanau County last August with my husband and our 4 teenagers. My husband actually, he is a lawyer. He just yesterday started as the general counsel of the Department of Energy in Washington, D.C. And he's worked in Washington now for 3.5 years. So we had this wonderful 8 days last summer for our family vacation, which is a lot for us. And we spent it here, and it was fantastic. We spent the first 4 days we had bikes, and we spent the first 4 days doing day trips with our kids to get used to what 50 and 60 miles felt like on a bike. And then we took off for the last 5 days. We left Sutton's Bay. We left Dean and Cindy Robb's place a Friday morning at 9 o'clock, and each of us had one little pack on our bike, and we left for 5 days. And my husband implored me not to micromanage my children's packing, even though obviously I know better than they do about when it should fit in a little pack, you know. But he said, you know, they learn better if they make mistakes, just let them go for it. He's right, of course, I understand. So I did. And we left Sutton's Bay on a Friday morning, as I said, and 65 miles later, or 70, I don't know, and a flat tire and a lot of other things, we arrived in Central Lake. I don't know if I ever told you this, Cindy. And the younger 2 opened their packs, and they had each packed a big box of donuts. Clean underwear, nope. Toothbrush, nope. Donuts. And here's the thing, they felt like it was the right call. I was appalled. They were like, hey, I have donuts. What do you have? So I don't know if they learned, but that's how that went. Anyway, I'm very happy to be back. I wish I could stay for the weekend, but apparently I have to be back and parent. So The subject of my talk tonight is my reflections on my first 16 months on the Michigan Supreme Court. I think we might have said 18, but I haven't served 18 yet, so I'm just going to go with the number I've served. But I thought before I get to that, I'd put those reflections in some perspective by telling you a little bit more about how I got there. Quite honestly, I never dreamed of being a judge, let alone a justice on the state's highest court, and I never aspired to it either. For years, I enjoyed the practice of law from the other side of the bench and got great professional satisfaction and personal satisfaction from advocating for justice for my individual clients and teaching law students about the power and responsibility that comes with a law degree. I spent 22 years practicing law and 18 of those teaching law as well, first in New Haven and then for 15 very happy years at the University of Michigan. I taught traditional law school classes like criminal law, but I largely taught, as you heard, in the law school's clinical programs. In the clinical programs, students represent clients who would not otherwise have access to lawyers under the supervision of faculty. The idea is that they can learn a set of skills and values from the practice that they can't learn in the traditional classroom. And the clinics that we taught were focused in areas where there was need, or where legal problems were particularly thorny, figuring smart U of M law students might be able to figure something out. So domestic violence, child advocacy, wrongful conviction were some of those. Teaching through practice has the advantage of no hypotheticals. The people, the problems, the stakes are all real, and the learning is acute. I believe in the power of law, and in the legal system that distinguishes our country from so many other places. After all, a legal document gave birth to our country, written by men who understood, perhaps more than any before or since, that fairness and justice require certain basic legal rules. In my practice as an attorney, I always tried to ensure that the legal system's rules were applied to advance the cause of justice. I also find comfort in the court's unique role in our constitutional democracy. The court is the honest broker in government when government needs an honest broker. Its role is importantly different from the other branches in this way. We're elected by the citizens not to deliver a particular set of policies, but rather to deliver even-handedness, to be advocates for the rule of law itself. Sometimes that means we make unpopular decisions, but we hold the public's confidence by strictly adhering to this unique role. The Supreme Court, in particular, plays an important administrative role in leading all of the state's courts right down to your local district court, where you'll go if you need a little justice or somebody needs it from you. We have to make sure that those courts are administered evenly, fairly, and that everyone has access to them. As I said, it was never part of my life plan that I would run for the Michigan Supreme Court one day, or any judicial office, really. It was at the investiture of my friend and now colleague, Justice Mary Beth Kelly, that my husband turned to me and said, you should run for the Michigan Supreme Court. I swear this is what happened. He literally said, you should run for the court. You have good relations with these folks, and you practice before the court, and you care about it. And I thought, maybe he's right. I do think I have a contribution to make. I feel like I have a perspective from my unique practice background that could be useful at a conference table. And so, I kind of stumble into running for the Michigan Supreme Court. And okay, I'm cutting out a number of months and, ups and downs in the process, but that summary version of it kind of captures the essence of how I ended up running for the Supreme Court. That must sound naive, and it is. I will readily confess that my lack of a background in politics or elections meant that the campaign process presented me with a steep learning curve along many fronts. That's a different speech. Invite me back. I was sworn in, it all worked out, so here I am. I was sworn in and took office on January 1st, 2013. I'm a quick study, I swear I'm a quick study. I took office on January 1, 2013, and I joined my 6 colleagues at the conference table where we started our work together. This is an important part of what I want to say. We work together. We have to. We are a court of 7. For the most part, the volumes of commentary about judicial philosophy take the judge as an autonomous thinker, an individual decision maker who reasons all by himself or herself about how to apply the principles of law to the facts of a given case. This image of the judge as an autonomous decision maker makes perfect sense for judges who, like most, preside in their courtrooms alone. But the Michigan Supreme Court is, of course, a collegial body. We make our decisions collectively. And like other small collective bodies, the work product of the Michigan Supreme Court is greater than the sum of the individual contributions of its members. Even when cases generate different opinions from its members, the judgments of the Michigan Supreme Court are the judgments of no single justice acting alone, and our written opinions reflect and should reflect our collective responses to the cases before us. Much like juries or corporate boards or scientific review panels, when our body is working as it should, our decisions will reflect our collective judgments. Against the overwhelming backdrop that today's governments are failing at serving the public, in large part because of gridlock and a lack of possibility as a result of that gridlock, I am delighted to report to you that the Michigan Supreme Court is a stunning counterexample right now. We are working hard, we are working together, and we are working very well. I believe our decisions reflect this. The court has a decision-making function and an administrative function, and I want to talk briefly about both. But the decisions we make are probably our most visible work product, though most of the decisions we make are done in confidence and the public never knows about the care and hard work we put into them. But the ones that we issue, the opinions we issue on the cases that are argued before us, provide some data for the claims I'm making here tonight. For example, this term, I believe the number of opinions we've issued so far is 16. I could have missed one today or yesterday. And all 16 of those have been unanimous in result, and almost all of them have been unanimous in their reasoning. That's a compelling data point. It will not be the case that every opinion we issue this term will be unanimous, of course, but I predict that you will not see opinions issued that track partisan affiliation. When we disagree, it's principled, and most importantly, it's done agreeably. The court's administrative function might be less visible than our decision-making function, except to those who come in contact with the courts, the litigants. And of course, it's equally important. In a big picture sense, it's our responsibility to make sure that all of the state's courts are operating efficiently, but also effectively. The administrative tasks we perform vary from the very broad, making our courts accountable to the public, to the very specific, making sure a particular court rule is serving the goals it's intended to serve. I want to describe a couple of these initiatives, some that I've been particularly active in, to give you a sense of how I spend my time when I'm not reading and writing. And the first one is the biggest one, how we make our courts accountable to the public. This is something that this Supreme Court has been working on pretty seriously in the past couple of years. In the private sector, businesses measure their outcomes to make sure they are delivering efficiency and customer satisfaction. We've decided to try and do the same thing. We have courts across the state keeping track of a series of measurables and making that data public. This was not popular with many of the judges. And we are surveying the litigants of those courts as well to get their sense of their experiences in those courts. And there's some good data as a result of all of that. From sobriety courts to mental health courts, from drug courts to veterans courts, we now have 174 problem-solving courts across the state, and each of those can show with data that it is reducing recidivism as opposed to a regular docket, each of those. The trial courts are resolving cases within guidelines 96% of the time, but most of all, the public is noticing. For example, 94% of court users surveyed said they were treated with respect